If you've ever thought about booking a private reading but weren't totally sure what actually happens inside one, this video is going to make the whole process really clear. I'm Emily Snyder, a psychic medium for pets and people, and today I'm walking you through what exactly happens in a session from start to finish so you know what to expect, what's possible, and how each type of reading works. Whether you're curious about intuitive life guidance, connecting with a loved one who's passed, or understanding your pet on a deeper level, I'll show you the structure that I use, how I get my information, and what you can prepare so that you feel grounded and comfortable in this environment. First, you'll notice I'm sitting in my green chair. This is where I do almost every single reading, and I like to offer this calm green energy with the bright colors behind me, and I have my cards off to the side should anyone ask. But this is the environment you will see me in over Zoom. I offer 3 different types of readings. The first is an intuitive reading or psychic reading, and that is reading the energy of the living, of you. It is all about you, what's going on in your life, your future, the possibilities. So if you have questions about career path or family or finances or health, that's the type of reading you'd want to book. If you want more clarity on your own spiritual journey, I also offer readings that are called a spiritual assessment, which is where we just look at the spirituality part of you. It's an intuitive reading, but a more specific type of one. Mediumship is actually a specialized form of psychic ability. Not everyone who is a psychic can be a medium. Mediums talk to those who've passed. So if you have a relative who's passed or a friend or someone that you'd like to reach out to, that's the type of reading to book with me. Those readings are filled with connection and memory and healing, but they can also offer a bit of life insight if your grandma has something to say about your life path. That reading would still be a mediumship reading, but we're asking their opinion on what's going on with your life. I also offer pet readings. Some of the most fun I've had is talking to living pets using that psychic ability, talking about behaviors and favorites, things they love to do, also diving into some health issues if there's anything going on that you can't quite figure out. Honestly, pet readings make us laugh and cry, and sometimes at the same time. I also offer mediumship readings with pets, so that's a pet who's deceased and living on the other side. These offer you healing and connection across the veil, but also tend to be about end-of-life decisions, and if anything went down that you really want to clarify, that's the type of reading to book. Some people come to me and say, I don't know what I want, I just want you to do your thing, and that's totally fine too. If you want me to just open up the room and see what happens, I'm also happy to do that in a reading. Generally speaking, then Spirit takes over and tells me what the agenda is, and we go through what they would like to go through versus what you would like to go through. I love those readings because they can sometimes clarify the things that you knew you wanted to talk about, but also open doors to the possibilities of things you weren't aware of. Let's get into the structure of the reading and how I ask you to give feedback. On the feedback front, what I ask from you is a simple yes, no, or maybe. Why do I ask that? I'm going to give you evidence because I'm an evidential medium, and you are going to verify that you understand that completely, you understand none of that, or there's a maybe, not sure, partially, too vague kind of answer. The reason why I do that is the information comes to me in bits and pieces. I get it a bit like a game of charades, and I'm piecing that together for you into the entire story. If I'm talking to your grandfather and he shows me a pair of boots and the feeling of being tired and the sun beating down on his face, working very hard with his hands, I will deduce that he probably worked with his hands on a farm or something like that. So if I say to you, I understand all of these things, that he worked on a farm, the answer might be yes, but it could also be that he grew up on a farm and then moved off the farm. Or it could be that you work on a farm and he's trying to show me your life. So that's where the yes and the no come in, because he's giving me that evidence in those bits and pieces, and I am interpreting it as I see, hear, and feel it. We just want to make sure as mediums we're on the right track, and then we just kind of dig deeper and deeper and deeper until we get the whole story. The no helps us understand if what we're interpreting is wrong. We're kind of like the game of telephone. I'm holding that telephone up to my ear. Am I hearing it 100% correctly? No? Okay, let me go backwards and sort out what has been happening. Feeding the medium means you're telling me all the information and all I'm doing is saying yes or no, or actually giving you the reverse feedback. That's not very helpful to you. So the reason why I ask for just that yes, no, maybe is so that I am doing the majority of the talking and bringing the evidence either from spirit or a loved one straight to you. I am an evidential psychic medium, so I'm giving you verifiable facts about your life, about your pet, about a loved one who's passed, so that you know we're on the same page, and then the information I give you is valid. Let's talk about an intuitive reading. I generally start by scanning your aura. Now, I don't always tell you that that's what I'm doing, but I like to scan the aura to get a sense of your personality, who you are, your energy center. That kind of gives me a baseline for where you're at right now. Next, I ask Spirit, what are the themes in your life that you'd like to talk about right now? Notice I'm asking them, not you. So if it's career or family or finances or something big that's going on, they will tell me here's where to focus. Those life themes sometimes take up the majority of the reading, but sometimes we start to speak to guides or higher self. In that case, we're trying to connect to get further insight, direction, and next steps. About halfway through, I'll turn to you and say, what questions do you have? At that point, we can take a deeper dive into a former topic that we covered. You could give me additional information or specifics to get additional clarity around a situation, or you can bring up a topic that hadn't come up at all in your reading up until this point. Any of those are all possible. If you don't have any questions, I can just keep going. I'll ask Spirit, what's our next topic? And we'll just keep going. But I like to keep the door open to the questions that you may have brought to the reading. Now, a mediumship reading is a little bit different in that we're trying to connect to a loved one who's passed. The structure is somewhat similar in that we start the first part with me speaking to your loved one and you answering yes, no, maybe, and then the second half opens up for questions. But the mechanism for me starting the reading is actually to open up the portal, the door in my mind, and allow Spirit to bring your loved one through. I invite the spirit close to me, as close as possible, because their energy close to me brings me the best information. I like to start off with personality or identifying details around this person so that we know we have the person you want to connect to. So if it's your grandfather, maybe it's around his career, his relationship with you, how he laughed at your jokes, things that make him him. We're bringing those forward to say, yep, this is my grandpa. Sometimes they bring up details around their passing, but it's not often the first thing that they want to talk about. We then move into their agenda. What do they want to talk about? So if there's something around closure or healing, or they want to bring up memories or time together, or words left unsaid, they will take us down that path, again with you saying yes, no, and maybe. Eventually we get to a message or messages that they have about your life, about their life, about your connection together. Those aren't necessarily verifiable, but the idea is that you know this person is here from the evidence, you've heard memories and stories about them, and at that point, the message is just for you to take home and accept in any way you wish to. As I do with intuitive readings, in a mediumistic reading, I will ask you if you have questions about halfway through. That opens the door to anything you would like to talk about with your loved one that they haven't necessarily brought up. So a note on that, if we're talking to your grandpa and you're asking him opinions about your life, he's going to give his opinions. This is not talking about higher self or spirit guides. This is your grandpa's opinion on your life. I will say I've had some funny times come forward when grandma's like, I just want you to get married and have a bunch of babies. And the person's like, yep, that's exactly what my grandmother would say, but that's not what I want for my own life. Let's talk about living pet readings. For living animals, the reading is really a mix around communication and practical insight. So things that you can do to make their lives better or understand them more or give them a much more happy, healthy environment. I start off my readings much the same and check in on their personality, making sure that we've got the right dog and maybe not your other dog who really wants to talk first and cuts the line. I like to bring up things about likes and dislikes around food, toys, routine, people, environment, and I ask them all these questions and they respond back to me. I also like to ask about health and comfort, anything that's going on, specifically with older dogs and cats, about their aging, and to share that with you. Now, a reminder, I'm not a vet, so any health advice I give, I preface this by saying, this is what your dog is telling me. It's up to you whether you want to act on that or take that to a vet. I highly recommend taking anything to a vet if you want anything resembling a medical diagnosis. Most pets think they have a job. Sometimes it's protection, sometimes it's emotional support, sometimes it's security detail. You never know what's going to come out of their mouth, but I like to ask, what's your job? I also love to ask them what they want you as their owner to know. And this can range the gamut of, I just love them so much. Thank you so much for rescuing me. It can be a long list of things that they really want to get across to you. But most of the time, if you're doing a great job caring for them, they're going to come forward with a giant thank you. That being said, I've had some dogs come forward and say, you could do this thing different. Or a cat say, please stop petting my stomach. I really hate it. Those things do come through. But when you ask them what they want you to know, it's usually the big stuff. We also talk about how you as their owner can support them. It sometimes brings out some aha moments about where they want to sleep, the food that they eat, or how to emotionally support them better. As with all of my readings, I will turn to you and say, what questions do you have? And I will tell you, most pet owners do have quite a list of questions about what their dog, cat, bunny, etc. is up to. I'm happy to answer them, but I can't guarantee you're going to like the response from every single question you're asking. With deceased pet readings, these readings are very tender and a lot of times have to do with end of life. However, not always. Sometimes pets just come forward and want to give you a hug and reminisce about their memories. And sometimes they want to yell at you about how you've been doing in your life so far. It does range the gamut, but they do tend to be a bit more sensitive than the readings with living pets. It's also to offer clarity around that end of life timeline and what happened. These can be the most tender moments and some that people really struggle with without that communication. As with all readings, I ask if you have any questions, and a lot of times these are filled with laughter and tears and everything in between. I realized in the editing of this video that there were a few questions I didn't answer, so I want to go rapid fire through that list. How long are my readings? Each of my private readings are 45 minutes. It gives me plenty of time to deep dive into all of the topics that are surrounding you, your loved ones, and your pets. Occasionally through my newsletter, I will offer a mini reading, which is somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes. Once a month, I offer life and loved ones message events. Those are a group reading in a 90-minute Zoom. Everybody gets a message and they range the gamut of things about your life and your loved ones and your pets, and we spend 90 minutes together. What should you do to prepare for your reading? I advise a quiet space. I also advise putting your cell phone on mute. That's very helpful. If you have to sign in through your phone, that's also okay. But any kind of dinging or distraction distracts me, but it also distracts you. And I want us both to be here in this present moment together. You should bring any questions that you have around any topic that you want to bring up. Questions are not necessary, but it's sometimes nice to write them down and think about them ahead of time. Can I record my session? Yes, I will do it for you through Zoom, and I will send you the link to that recording about a week after our reading. A few questions around pet reading specifically. Do I ask for a photo? Yes. I do like to have a photo of your pet beforehand. It helps me just connect a little bit quicker. And I'm a sucker for cute animals. That's definitely true. Does your pet have to remain on screen with you? No. You can let your pet roam around. They can be asleep in another room. They can even not be with you physically, and I can still read their energy. What if my pet is super shy? I have a few tricks up my sleeve, but also some of it just has to do with letting the reading unfold. There are definitely personalities who like to talk more than others, but the message always comes out in the best way possible. A couple of notes on mediumship readings. What if you want a specific loved one to come forward and they don't show up? I actually believe that I can call spirits close to me, and I do it in every single reading. Just like we do for a deceased pet, I can call a relative close to me. Now, their willingness to speak is sometimes a little bit questionable. We just talked about shy pets. The same is true of humans. They can be rather shy, and if your relative was not one that wanted to speak, sometimes that can be a little bit tricky. That's why I say there's no guarantee that we can bring a spirit straightforward, but most of the time I do have success in bringing them to you. Also around mediumship readings, it is a very good idea to wait at least 6 months before you come and see me. It takes spirits a little bit of time to get used to being on the other side, and especially if the death was unexpected or sudden, it can take even a little bit longer than that. So I like to give humans and pets a little extra time to settle in. Do I need the name of your deceased pet or human? Not necessarily. I'm not a medium who really likes to get names and dates. Those are not my specialty. I prefer to get personality and memories and feel their essence and get you the best message possible, but it might not be, oh, May 13th is my birthday. Sometimes I will ask for a name because it's nice to have a reference point. In addition, occasionally on meetings, it acts as kind of a lock-in with that spirit. If I know their name and I repeat their name, it kind of brings them even closer to me. What if you're nervous? I totally understand. Before I was a medium, I would have been very nervous myself to go and see a medium. But just know that my intention is to give you the best possible reading for clarity, healing, and connection. That's it. If you want to stop the reading at any time and say stop, I will automatically stop. But I like to think of readings as just being a warm, gentle hug around both of us. At the end of the reading, we usually wind down the questions, and then I ask if there's any final question, and if not, sometimes I will ask the pet or the loved one or your higher self, what's the biggest thing you want them to take away from this reading? And sometimes we get such beautiful moments at the very end of a reading. And then I say goodbye, and we sign off, and that's it. Now, after a reading, what do I suggest that you do? Take a moment. Sometimes it can feel overwhelming emotionally, and I would just say take a moment and pause and just sit in that energy for a little bit until you're ready to truly process everything that has just happened. If you have any questions, I'm always available via email afterwards. I hope that you've enjoyed this video and it's given you some additional clarity on what it's like to sit with me. Once again, I'm Emily from Connected Intuition. As always, stay open, stay curious, and stay connected with Connected Intuition. I'll see you next time.